Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to have Candice back. So Candice, welcome back.
Hi, Kendrick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So Candice, can you remind everyone what your full type is again?
Yes, absolutely. My type is I am a double feminine, SETE, play, blast, sleep, consume, which makes me an ESFP jumper.
Okay, cool. And what do you think is your social type?
I have no idea, Kendrick. I know you and I discussed it just a tiny bit, and I thought at the time I could be what did I say, one or a two or something like that, and you said maybe you might be a one. So I've been pondering it. I even made a video where I kind of like try to process out my thoughts, but I'm still unsure. I could be a one, with cognitive dissonance from my saviors, or I don't know, I could be a number two. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we'll discuss it. I think you also said you think you might be a three also at one point or something, right?
Yeah, I think the more I watch videos on number threes and specialists, I feel like I'm not, but who
Yeah.
knows?
No, I don't think you are because you're very entrepreneurial. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, why don't we talk about your journey first? Working on your SF sleep last, which is so weird because you're an ESFP, right? And it's your first and second function, but then you have consume last, which is so weird. Um, can you share a little bit on where that comes out, that consume last, and then how you've been working on it or have not been working it over the years?
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge shocker to me to find out that I was consumed last. And I guess it's like all the typical things that they say about consume last. It's like I have zero connection to like my body image or like my exterior, what I'm perceived as. And so that gives me a lot of anxiety. And also, whatever I'm not interested in, I literally like just don't care. And so I won't even try to like consume it. And I think it has left a lot of glaring, gaping holes in my life that will probably catch up to me at some point. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard that consume last people they don't get tidal waves on a regular basis. They get it like every like 5 to 10 years, and it's like really big when it happens. Like you get audited, for example, for your taxes. Because like you forgot to do something. Um, okay, that's cool. So a lot of the stuff that you said is kind of interesting because the first part is like you don't want to research anything that you're not interested in, but like you have FI, so I kind of get it. Like, of course, you're not gonna research anything you're not interested in. But I think the other thing that's interesting is your lead play. So you can gather new information, but it has to be from other people, not like the research you'll do yourself. So can you share a little bit about like, okay, yeah, you'll get the info from the other person, but you won't research it yourself, kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, even like ops, right? I think they publish the ebook and there's a lot of resources out there, but I won't touch the stuff where I have to like read it by myself. It's like I would rather watch these interviews and these videos. Same thing, like I learn a lot of stuff on TikTok, and to me that's kind of like play, right? Where I'm just like hearing other people like sharing their stories and recommendations and even like when I shop for products, it's like I rely on reviews or what other people say. Yeah, I definitely do rely on other people's opinions a lot.
Okay, so I want to ask you about the self-image thing because you have consumed last. Okay, so it's very interesting because like consume is correlated with like external self-awareness and external self-image. So with SF as consume, then the image that you would try to portray to the outside world is that of someone that's cool and popular, essentially, right? Because that's what SF, or at least trendy, right? In your own way, because there's also that FI aspect to it, right? Um, because you have it last, what are you doing for that SF image yourself? But then also on the flip side of things, after you do that thing, like let's say how you dress yourself and your fashion sense and whatnot, after you do that, but not being aware of how you're being perceived afterwards. So it's like this weird combination of things.
It is weird. I think that I have, dressed very inappropriately to things in the past. Um, like because I felt like a beanie went with my outfit, but it was just not the vibe for something a little more upper scale or, wearing like knee-high socks and a skirt to a wedding and, stuff like that. At the time, it never like bothers me because I feel like I look cute. I'm like, whatever. But, my parents or other people would be like, Candice, you should change. You should change. And that would make me so mad. So I always had that little conflict there. But also I have that struggle of like I genuinely don't feel like I know what I look like. And every time I see a photo of myself, it just completely takes me by shock. I'm like, is that me? Like it's so weird. And so it's been really helpful for me to do like these videos and things like that because when I rewatch it, it gets me more familiarized with what I look like on the outside, which might sound crazy, but that's just how I feel.
I think maybe a lot of people won't believe you, but I think because you are consume last, that is actually what's happening. And you have feminine
Yeah,
energy also, right? Um,
yeah.
which is weird because you have your sexual modality is tester and visual. So you have that visual aspect of things, but then so you can see things visually, but you can't see yourself visually. How is that happening for you? That's interesting. That
Yeah, and I've talked about this in a few of my other videos too, but I've struggled so much with body image. I would say that was like my number one issue growing up. Starting in like middle school, all through like college, I had a really bad eating disorder. And it was always because I physically never matched up to how I wanted to look. And so, just like fighting my body type, fighting my face shape, just everything that like I knew how I wanted to look, but I didn't look that way. And then there's also all that pressure of like social media and magazines and how people should look. And yeah, it was a really dark time for me. I spiraled pretty hard and I had to go to like, dietitians, psychiatrists, and I also struggled with a lot of like depression and things like that throughout the years. But I really do believe, this is just my personal opinion, that that depression came from that, my body image and my consume last.
you know, I had well, first off, that sucks that happened, but I think ultimately though it made you a better person because like I think if you didn't have those struggles, you wouldn't be who you are today. So, um, I think that's like the positive spin to it. But I remember I had a client when I used to work in the fitness industry. I'm not working there right
Mhm.
now, but maybe I'll go back one day. But so I had a client. He was a PhD psychologist, and then I love training that guy because he always gave me some insight, like the behind the scenes, behind like
Mhm.
what a psychologist does when he deals with clients. And
Yeah.
then he said to me, "Oh yeah, I know. I get a lot of women coming to me, and they tell me they have body image issues, but it's never body image issues." That's what he told me. And he said a lot of
Oh.
men come to him for like some kind of other issue, but it's always body image issues. I'm like, what? Really? So,
Oh.
so I don't know if that's true for you or not. Do you feel like it was legitimately body image issues? And what was your experience like? You don't have to go into like any private details, obviously, but like when you spoke with psychologists, did they actually tell you was it a body image issue that you struggled with, or was it something, or body image issue was a symptom of like the root issue?
I have a weird relationship with therapists and psychiatrists because I feel like they always try to steer you toward, how were you parented? How was your childhood? In what ways were you neglected and abused? And I don't really feel like I went through any of that. I was just always really hard on myself and I always just disliked or was not in touch with the way that I looked. So I still firmly believe that that is it. And like when people get asked like, oh, if you got $1 million, what would you spend it on? Like mine is easy. I would absolutely fix everything I hate about myself, and then I would be like confident and happy for the rest of my life. And that's what I truly believe.
Oh,
And
you
I
get,
know it sounds crazy, but yeah.
oh, you mean get like cosmetic surgery and stuff?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, maybe this is a good time to talk about your social type because when I messaged you to do our follow-up interview, I really thought you're number one because there's a lot of stuff that you said in our past interview that clicked to me, and also kind of like just what you said right now. It's like you're very fixated on your image, but that's like a number one thing, It's like I have like an ego and I have to flex and I have to look a certain way. And then also on our first interview, when I asked you about like being savior play and about friendship, and you told me like you had no friends. I'm not saying like that, you said you had no friends. So I'm like, I just kind of connect things together. I'm like, wait, no friends, cares a lot about the appearance and image a lot. People who are usually image oriented are ones and threes, right? And you're not a three, so that eliminates that because you're very entrepreneurial. Like you're really good at it. Like when you had your candy business, right? Um, so that's what I thought. So and And also like when you do your YouTube stuff, you're doing it like by yourself. Like there's nobody in your channel at all. So it's like a
Uh-huh.
solo act. So I'm like, there's like a lot of like clues that you're leaving behind. Like just for me as an outsider perspective, that
Uh-huh.
when I collect it together, I'm like, this sounds like a number one, you know? But what do you think based on all those different clues that I mentioned?
I mean, yeah, after you mentioned that I could be a number one, I really thought hard about it. And, I think the things that I don't really relate to are being able to drop someone like at the drop of a hat. Um, but again, it could be my feminine DE, right? Like maybe um, I'm nice to the tribe and I wear a mask of friendliness all the time. So I've never like I know people in my life who can do that where they just like eliminate people and like they're like, oh, they're cut out of my life. I've never really done that. Um, yeah. So that's the part that kind of got me like, maybe I'm not that, but yeah, I am very business minded. I feel like I have to have a high quality to everything that I do. I'm also very like money driven, which sounds really weird, but to me it's like a thrill. Like it's just fun to make money. And so I just like seek out all these different ways to do it because it's fun.
Oh, I see. So it's not about the money itself. It's like the thrill of getting it. It's fun.
Yeah.
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 Okay, no, that's interesting that you mentioned that. It could be a lot of things too. Like not all number ones are jerks that will kick out all their friends, obviously. So I
Hmm.
think when they use that as an example, I think that's like the extreme number ones.
Hmm.
So maybe you're not the extreme number one. It's hard to say. But some things that you said earlier too that also stood out to me is like um you're gonna go to an event and you think you look good, so who cares what's appropriate is. Um,
Yeah.
and then I was thinking when you said that, I was like, oh, I think you want to stand out, you know, you don't want to just blend in with everyone else. And that's like a number one thing. It's like I'm not like everyone else. I'm different, like I'm built
Yeah.
different. So
Yeah.
it's like when you said that, I was like, well, I don't know, because number twos would just blend in, right? They're not like gonna.
Mm.
Oh, sure, of course, if it's like a special occasion, they'll still dress nice, but like they're not gonna go there for the purpose of standing out. They're gonna go there for the purpose of friendship or networking, right? For business. But like for you, it's like I'm gonna stand out. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that? Like knowing that you were doing that.
I think that does make sense. And in those like rare moments where I feel really good about myself and the way that I look and I go to places, I don't go there like thinking, all right, I'm gonna talk to people and make friends. I have an energy of don't talk to me.
Oh,
For
really?
sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's like I'm too good for you, kind of like.
I mean, I guess so. I'm a lot friendlier when I drink, but I'm like weird around people and like people make me anxious and maybe it is my feminine TE again where I just feel like I'm forced to be polite and I'm forced to be friendly, but inside I don't want to be. There's a lot of that.
Is that like a Japanese culture thing that then? Is that
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah.
yeah, because I have a Japanese friend in Canada and she would tell me things like, oh yeah, those Japanese girls, they can smile to you all day, but inside their head they're thinking fuck off. That's what she told me.
Yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah, that's what she told me. I was like, that's so good. Um, so but then you grew up in America, right? Like you're
Yeah.
American. So you're like
Uh-huh.
your culture is more American than Japanese. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. My mom is from Japan though, and then my dad is from Okinawa. So I was raised very Japanese and also in Hawaii where there's a lot of Japanese Americans and Asians in general. So yeah,
So it's like a weird hybrid. It's like
yes.
you have like the Japanese side of things where you have to put on a front that you're friendly,
Uh-huh.
but then
Yeah.
you also have the American side where you want to flex, So it's like
Yeah.
kind of deal. And then you have like the American values also. It's like go getter, like go after it. So that's cool. Okay, so why don't we pretend you're one and then run
Okay.
and see where this goes, okay? Because
Okay.
I really can't see you being a number two because number twos, it's like they have genuine friends like number twos. I'm not trying to like offend you or anything, but like but you did say it that you didn't have any friends. Um, so let's start with the different parts, okay? Let's start with the demon friends first, okay? So what is the struggle with making friendship as you grew up in Japan? Like, did you have a group of friends when you were in high school, for example?
Yeah, I feel like my friendships always just happened organically, but I'm very passive about approaching people. So, whoever approached me and like took me into their friend group, I would become friends with. And, it's not to say like I was a super loner and I didn't have friends growing up. Like I very much had like best friends growing up and like click cliques of friends and people that I did everything with. But at the core of it, I was never, like it's not like I went to school because I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go see my friends, or at work, it's like I'm not there to make friends. Yeah, but I did have a lot of friends growing up. And I mean, I have friends now too. It's just I don't put a lot of effort into it, I guess. And I just let it fizzle out and it doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, there you go. That's why you're a one, because the twos would be bothered by that, you know. They would like touch base with their friends at least like once a year, from what I can see. You know, they'll be like, oh, something's
Yeah.
off. Of course, like number twos for us, the work is more important than the friends. But the friends is also important, and we always strive for a win-win, where it's like, okay, the relationship must be maintained. At one point in our life, we're gonna retire, and we're not retired because number twos, I don't think will ever retire. Same as number ones. I don't think number ones will ever retire. But like, but at one point, you're gonna get to our life where like the people is more important than the work. Because I mean, I'm just overgeneralizing, obviously, because like a lot of number ones are still working in their 90s and stuff. So um,
Mhm.
so but I do see like friendship being important. But like for you, it sounds like the friendship is like, if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, who cares? Is that
Yeah.
kind of right?
Yeah, and I think I've always been someone like, when you travel with someone and you just get so sick of them and you want to get away. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like I've always like gotten that feeling of like, like this is enough. I need to get away. I need to like be by myself. Even with like sleepovers growing up, it's like a girl thing, right? You like do all these sleepovers, but in the morning I would just wake up and just be like, oh, like I don't want to be here. Like fuck this, yeah.
Where's that feeling coming from? Would you say it's coming from like you're just sick of people, or is this just like, I don't really care about this thing that we just did as much as I thought I did, you know?
Yeah, it's like I don't really want to be around people. And then I think it's just like that exhaustion of putting on that face of like being friendly and polite and being nice to the parents. And it's so exhausting internally to me that I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. That's probably what it is.
So why don't you just be an asshole then? Because it's easy. Then you don't have to try to be friendly.
Well, that's what my husband always says. He's definitely not afraid to be an asshole. But I can't. I'm obligated to not be an asshole. It's so stupid, but yeah.
Oh, because you're double feminine with your play, right? And you're double activated.
Yeah.
So you're very
Yeah.
tribe of self. So okay, where does the tribe of self come in, despite like not caring so much about, friendship and whatnot?
I don't know. It's like I've always just been really respectful of people. I don't talk down to people, and conflict terrifies me. I hate conflict. I will avoid conflict. Even on the road, I'm like if my husband is driving and he's getting into it with another car, I feel like close my eyes because I just cannot handle the conflict. Like it's just too much for me. So I avoid conflict a lot, and that's yeah, maybe that's another big driving force.
Oh, I see. Conflict. You don't like conflict and whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so interesting enough, when I was talking about that client of mine when I used to work in the gym, the psychologist guy, he told me that there's like four kinds of people. He said there's like what do they call it? There's people who are tribe oriented and what do you call it? Anti-violence. So anti-violence means anti-conflict pretty much. Okay. And there's people who are like anti friendship with people, and but also anti-violence. So I think that's you. And then there's people who are like pro friends and whatnot, but are also pro violence, okay, or conflict. And that's me.
Uh-huh.
That's me.
Oh.
Probably your husband also. Probably your husband also. Um, so I don't mind fighting with people, but like And then there's the last group, which is like this the people who are usually like doing bad stuff, like criminal stuff, is like they're anti-people, but they're pro-violence. So they hate people,
Mm,
but they are violent. So that's why you're friendly because you're anti-violence, right? So
yeah,
that like kind of like makes you not a sociopath or anything, you know?
yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So yeah, I'm just curious because you're play blast, so you're like double down on the try, but then your friends last from what I can see, you know. Um, so there's like a big social cognitive dissonance happening in you all the time. So can you share a little bit about like that cognitive dissonance then as a result of
Yeah. I think especially when I was younger and in school, and there was always the divide of like the popular girls and like the cliques, and so there were times in my life where I thought like, oh, what why don't I have those close friendships, or and it would come from a place of like jealousy and like darkness. But then on the flip side of it, it's like whenever someone gets too close to me, I'm like, get away kind of thing. So I don't know. It's like I can't be happy either way. I don't know. But I will say I'm happy right now with like having my husband as my best friend. Like we live together, we work together, we work on projects together. We're both really driven. And then we have like our animals, like my dog and my cat. And like it's chill, it's cool, there's no drama. Like I like it here.
I see your pets are your friends and your husband.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
did you find that you got along better with guys then when you were growing up, would you say, than other girls?
Yes, and I'm very aware that it's such a pick me girl thing to say, and I hate saying that, but it's so true. Like one of the happiest, best times in my life was I was best friends with these two guys, Ryan and Joe, in high school, and we had a little crappy garage band together. And but we would mostly just like be up to no good and like just like fuck around, and it was just so much fun. And I genuinely like I loved them so much and wanted to do everything with them. I would like skip classes to go hang out with them, and yeah. But yeah, yes, to answer your question, I definitely felt like I got along with guys.
Are you still friends with those guys or kind of like
Yes, but things change because like one lives in Japan now, one lives in New York now. They're both married, and I don't think their wives like me very much. But you know how it goes.
really?
Yeah, or maybe not. I know that one. I don't know how much I should talk about because this is like gonna be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
keep it private. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Okay. No, so you know why I asked that is because like I know people who are like um girls who are number one that don't hang out with other girls, but they'll hang out with other dudes, no problem. So that's why I asked you. Because like I've seen kind of like a it's like not like a pattern per se that like it happens to all women who are number one, but like I see like a clustering of it, you know. Like long time ago, I went
That's
out with this
interesting.
one girl. I think she was like half Chinese, half Vietnamese, and my girlfriend hates her. But anyways, but like but I didn't go out with her like a lot of times. But like, so, but anyways, I remember she was like a number one because the way she would talk to me was kind of like condescending. Like she'll say things like, "Oh, I'll make time for you," and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, what? Who would say that? Or
Uh-huh.
she'll say things like, "It'll cost you a lot to get me" or something. But like she'll say things like that to me, and then she'll tell
Uh-huh.
me, all my friends are guys. I don't have any female friends, and I'm like, and I didn't realize until like I learned about the social type. I'm like, oh, this is like that's a number one right there. This person was a number one, like the way she talked. I think she was like masculine TE though. I think she was an IP.
Mm.
So I think you're different. You're like double feminine. That's why you're like really friendly and stuff, even though you're like thinking all that stuff in your head. I appreciate your honesty, by the way, because like
Oh yeah, I'm an open book. I'll tell you anything.
okay. Okay, let's talk about like the other part. We can loop back to the friendship thing later. But like, so
Okay.
part of like a being number one is having demon specialization. So you can do it, but only in like bursts, right? You can't like do it all the time because it's not your default, right? Can you share a little bit about like having that like potentially activated specialization, but not your preferred thing?
Yeah, I guess I do relate to the whole like entrepreneurial thing because like I can do the admin side. So just as an example, I do like the merchandising for our family's brewery. So that's like everything from design to ordering to like inventory management, stockroom, like displays, all of it. And like I can do each thing, but if I only had to do like the ordering and the inventory, I would drive myself insane, you know? So I do like being able to delegate those types of tasks out. But yeah, I do like, but again, I'm an EP, so I just like the variety and not having to do one thing forever and ever and ever.
You know, that sounds like it's number two, like generalization. You're like, I don't want to do just one thing. I want to like wear different hats and you know, because that's more fun. Also, you're an EP also, so it's like a double win, right? So it sounds like you do have savior generalization where like you want to wear different hats. Very entrepreneurial also. Can you talk about having broad responsibility then as opposed to deep responsibility? Because like with specialization, the biggest difference between the number three and number twos is number threes, they want to go deep in like one thing, right? But for you, you want to
Mhm.
wear different hats, right? Um, so you want to have your hands in every aspect of, let's say, your business, right? Or whatever you're doing. But also at the same time, um, the good thing about like the number twos is they take responsibility for every aspect of their life. So they're not like ones to like make excuses, you know, kind of like Jocko, like extreme ownership. It's like, oh, this thing bad happened to me, my fault, right? You know, this thing happened, my fault. Do you have that attitude, would you say? Or it's more like the number three where it's like, nope, I only care about this one thing. Everything else, someone should help me or do it for me.
Yeah. Okay. So in my example of like the merchandising, like merchandise is like one thing, I guess. And then it's just I happen to do every part of that. But as far as like the business as a whole, I don't touch the operations or the HR or the hiring or the paperwork or the trademarks or that type of stuff. Like I don't do any of it. Um if I had to, maybe I would do it just because I had to, but it wouldn't be, top of mind. I've definitely in the past like have let domains expire, hosting expire, stuff like that. But I don't know. Does that answer your question or not too much?
It kind of does, but I think what's happening is you're so basically you have blast double activated, right? So when your blast is double activated, it also double activates your specialization. So I think that's what's happening based on what you're saying, because it sounds like you still prefer to wear different hats if you could. But the thing is, you're consume last, so you're not collecting different skill set. It's it's kind of like as a result of your animal, you're using your third social type as opposed to because you prefer to do it. Does that sound about right? Or is it because like you actually prefer to do it that way? Like or would you rather wear different hats?
Uh,
Did I
I don't
confuse you?
know, because yeah, well, when I think of hats, I'm like, okay, I wear a lot of hats on a day-to-day basis, but like, um, I wear a lot of different hats in the marketing and merchandising and design area, but not in the like company as a whole, if that makes sense, like, accounting and all of that stuff. But I don't know if that's just like a preference for specific hats.
I think that's more of a preference for the hat because like, you know, I'm an EP like you, and I'm just thinking if I was working in a big organization and you know, I do not want to do the SI aspect of that
Yeah.
organization because I'm an ENFP and I don't want to do SI stuff, right? So if I don't
Yeah.
have to. So I think that sounds like it's a preference of the hat. Because like, yes, you know, I can wear multiple hats, but I don't like that hat. So I'm not gonna wear it,
Hmm.
you know. So
Yeah.
it sounds like kind of like that. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. And then what about in your personal life with the broad responsibility, you know, like work, so the with the number twos, they try to be responsible for like a broad things in their life. So for example, um, you know, fitness, right? Or health, right? And then you have your career, and then you have relationship with your husband, right? And then you have your pets, right? And then you have your parents, you know. Do you have siblings, by the way, or are you the only child?
I have one older brother.
Okay, yeah, brother, right? So then, would you say that you also try to take responsibility for all those different areas too? Like just make sure that you're, or not so much. Like what's kind of like your take on that?
Probably not. When I get into fitness and things like that, I feel like I overdo it. And again, it might be related to like all that body image stuff. So I'm either like in it or not versus I don't know, someone like my husband, he's so routine oriented. He'll wake up and go for a jog. I could never do that. I was always like 3 hours of workout or just not at all. Um, so yeah, I don't think I really take responsibility for like every single facet of my life. Like I don't necessarily think I like, keep up the relationship with my brother specifically and my dog and my cat and my parents and like I don't think I really do a good job of being responsible for every single thing.
I see. I see. Um, that's hard to say, or whatnot. Let me think. You still feel like a one to me for some reason. I can't like get you as a two because it doesn't make sense, based on your track record. I think it's your cognitive dissonance that's kicking in, like the double activated blast. I think
Yeah,
it's like the double activated blast is making you become like a specialist, kind of you're having like a specialist life almost
yeah.
because of the double activated blast. And then your savior play is kind of like shoving your inner number one under a rug. Like that's kind of like what it feels like when I talk to you. I don't know.
Mm.
What does that sound like?
I mean, I can definitely relate to that. That that's probably what's going on because yeah, the more I think about it, the more I process it, the more videos I watch. I don't think I'm a three or a four, and because I'm not responsible for like absolutely everything, yeah, maybe I'm not a two. So
Yeah, yeah, and shoot, there was something I wanted to say, but then my SI it disappeared because I have it for. That's so annoying. All right, I remember now. So, part of being number one and number two is thriving off negative reinforcement. So the negativity kind of like fires you up. Okay, it's not, and then so how do you feel about like negativity and like how it drives you?
yeah, that's a fun question. Yeah, negativity and criticism, really fuck me up. It really like hurts because I hold myself to such high standards. So when I hear negative things about, my work or my character, whatever it is, like I really take it to heart and it's really hard for me. But at the same time, I think, I have that David Goggins inner NF world and that big fuck you comes out and like all I want to do is say let me show you, like, fuck you, like, I'm gonna show you. And so, yeah, it really works out for me, I think.
Oh my God, right? You're very close to David Goggins type.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, the only difference is you're not sleep loss. Okay, so that sounds like a number one thing because the big ego gets hurt. Your character, your work, blah blah, everything's attached to the ego. But the fact that you want to show up the other person after, it's like I'll show you. It's like
Mhm.
also like a motivator, right? Like the fire
Yeah,
within.
yeah.
Because I remember David Goggins said that he reads all the comments in his YouTube or social media just to get him pissed off so that he'll work harder. Like he'll do it on purpose. But I guess you don't do that though, right?
I mean, if I read negative comments, I think it would hurt me a lot. Like I would cry in private, you know? But yeah, I don't know. It's just a swing of like once I process it, once I'm over it, then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna rise up from the ashes and get out of this stronger. And I put a lot of pressure on myself.
I see. Okay, gotcha. So the aftermath of falling apart is like now I'm gonna do better kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah. I think the initial response is not necessarily that anger or the drive. It's really like hurt, a lot of
Right.
hurt. And then once that's over, then it's like, all right, now I'm pissed.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I see. It goes to like a emotion thing. Well, it's good that you're
Yeah.
aware of that. Like how you know what that maybe that's why you're not sleep last because you're aware of your emotional patterns. Because you just described to me your NIFI pretty much, right? Like this
Mhm.
this is your NIFI pattern, and you're double masculine also, right? So you're like very
Mhm.
keenly aware of it. Like you spelled it out
Yeah.
so easily and so quickly when I asked you this question. You didn't have to sit there and think about it. Like you're vivid.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so that's your so it sounds like because it's your character that you care about the most, which is your NF sleep, right? That's the one that gets offended the most. Can you share a little bit about like what character you want to have for yourself or what do you want to see yourself as? and hopefully you get recognized as also, like if people get a chance to get to know you, which is hard because you're you're not because you're friendly, but you're not like, I don't want to, you don't want to be close people. It's like a weird thing.
Yeah, I think at the heart of it, I feel like I want to be admired from a distance. Like that sounds kind of silly, but I feel like a lot of EPs, right? Like maybe they secretly want to be like an influencer or make their mark in that type of way. And especially with my play energy, it's like even with my videos, even though I'm talking to no one, I'm still talking to an audience, and that gets my play energy out. So uh, I want, yeah, it's not like I have to be the best in my specific field of marketing or branding or whatever it is that I'm doing, but maybe I want to be admired just for being myself and for the life force that I bring to my projects and the way that I am. I don't know.
Oh my God, yeah, I think you are number one, admired from a distance. Like like this, like you have so many clues that you leave behind. It's almost like impossible not to stick you there. But like, what is your drive like, in life? Like your drive to succeed. What is that like? Can you share a little bit of like your drive for success? Like, I want to win, I want to succeed, I want to achieve. Like, what does that drive look like for you?
Yeah, it's been a really like roundabout way for me because I don't think I'm very like aggressive or pushy. I've done well in certain things, but it's always in a passive way, and I think that it's again because of my savior obligations and just EP and things falling into my lap and chaos and whatever. But I also grew up with a dad who's very entrepreneurial. And he he's very like a politician type. Like everywhere we go, he's like shaking hands with people and like joking around. And so I always kind of had to be like in those settings too, like, oh, this is my daughter. And I always had to like smile and wave and, be polite at dinner. I hated that too. I felt like a little show pony. But yeah, just watching my dad succeed and succeed, like that had a big influence on me too. And I don't know that I necessarily have like that need to crush others and need to be number one, but I passively get there. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So are you competitive then or no? Would you say?
I feel like I'm secretly competitive.
Okay, so you are competitive. That's yes. Okay. Because I think one of the things that you said earlier was like when you were dealing with like other girls when you were younger, there's like always jealousy that happened, right? And jealousy comes from being competitive, right? From what I can see. Because like I have demon ego. So I'm not like a jealous kind of person, but I know like I had a friend who's a number one and he gets jealous so easily from other dudes, you know. And then so every time I have like a number one friend, like I'm like, why are you being so weird? Like, who cares if you lost playing tennis with this person? It's a game, who cares? Or like, who cares if they have a nicer car than you? It's like it's always been weird, right? So yes, I guess that's okay. So I think you're like a number one that from the sound of it, it sounds like you want recognition and admiration, but you don't need like to crush people per se. You just want to be
Mhm.
seen like higher, but you don't need that. Does that sound right? Or
I think that makes a lot of sense because I am still very like conflict avoidant. So I don't want to like be crushing people and being aggressive with them, but I want to rise by myself, I guess.
right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So Shan said something interesting because she's a number one, right? So she said something interesting in like I don't know if she said it publicly or behind the paywall that you're not part of the class, right?
I'm not. I should though.
Yeah, I'm not like telling you you should. But you consume last, so it's okay. But they do like they talk to you. They do the live shows now, and they actually interact with people. So it's like a little bit different than before. But
Yeah.
so Shan said something interesting about like social type. So she said she feels like the social type you have like some kind of pheromones that you like release, and like people know if you're a one or not. People just are aware that you're number one. Like people start following you if you're number one, like subconsciously, without you telling people anything. Because you said some stuff earlier about like, oh, I'm just passive and I reach my goal passively. And it's almost like, oh yeah, you're like a number one, and of course you're gonna become a number one eventually, just because you are a number one. Not saying you didn't work hard for it or anything, but because of like how you are genetically, like that's the number one. It's just like it's gonna happen.
Uh,
Do you see like people kind of follow you? Like people look up to you in some way?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, like, uh, even with like social media, like I'll like once in a while exert some focus into like, all right, I want to like grow a following. And when I put in that effort and stuff, like I do, grow. And like I think with my personal Instagram account, I got up to like 4,000, and it happened over like the span of a few weeks, and then I just like stopped posting, and then it died down. But like in that kind of way, or are you talking about more like in person?
Yeah, no, it could be both. Because I did notice that when you had your YouTube channel and you were putting videos out, people started following you all of a sudden.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Who's this Candice person? Like, because I think I was originally part of the cognitive resolution group, and I was
Uh,
I was there. I think I was part of the group that also typed you. I typed you wrong.
yeah,
I got you as an ENFP, right? Which is completely wrong. But
yeah.
I think I had you sleep last or something. And anyway, so like um but like that's how I found you. And then obviously I had to like look at your channel to type you, right? I'm like, how, like, who's this person? And she's getting like followers all of a sudden and commenting. And I'm like, so I didn't know back then about social type, but like now I do. And then now I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I think people know you're number one, like subconsciously. So like
That's so weird.
we need to follow this person because she's a number one, like subconsciously. They'll backward
Oh,
rationalize it with like other things, of course. But I think subconsciously it's like, oh, because you're number one, people are gonna automatically
oh.
like follow you. Because like I think Shan said like Dave follows him around in like grocery stores or something, and like people follow her around, like just
Yeah,
automatic.
yeah, she did say that.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's and I was thinking about all my friends who are number ones. I'm like, oh my God, yes, people do follow them. And they kind of look up to them too. And then I'm looking at my number one friends. I'm like, I kind of look up to them too, I care about their opinion of me, because they're number
Um,
one. Um, Even if they're tribal of self. So it's kind of like that weird thing. So with that being said though, what if you meet other number ones? You know, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's competition, or do you feel like, oh, this is friendship because we're both like go-getters, we're both like going after it? Like, is this like, okay, so basically you said that you prefer friendship in a distance, right? But like, what if you meet other people who are also go-getters? How does it change the relationship a little bit, or not so much?
I think you've asked a few people this, but if they're in the same arena as you, like you get a little competitive or whatever. Or I
Yeah.
think you asked that question. I definitely feel that a little bit. Like when I meet other people that are in my same field, that could be also like a number one, I definitely feel threatened, and I'm like, oh, this is competition. Like nothing outwardly, I just inside, right? It's all this is going on. But I feel like if I were to meet a number one in a completely different setting of something that I loved, I probably would really look up to them and want to like be friends. And yeah.
Okay, so it has to be in a different arena. It cannot be in the same.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Is it that interview with Shinzia that you saw, or is it like is it the video I released of the social type number one that you saw that?
I can't remember.
It's okay. It's
But I
okay.
think you did ask a few people, right? Like if they're is she the weightlifter girl?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it might have been that one.
Did you see the interview, or is it the social type video that I released, the explainer?
Oh, because you have a clip of the interview in that. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That could have been it.
Oh, okay, because you're probably doing your research right before we did when you were trying to figure out what your social type is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I noticed with like the number ones, like if I like sometimes I watch on social media and stuff, like Tom Brady, the NFL player, he would play basketball with Michael Jordan, right? And then they'll all like the different number ones from like different industry would like hang out and stuff. So they have like a little
Uh,
number one club. It's like exclusive,
uh,
like an exclusive club.
yeah.
Um, by the way, what's your arena, by the way? Is it like the restaurants? Because you guys own like that thing? Or like what do you see? What would you define as your arena?
I guess my arena is like the marketing and the branding. Right now, it's the craft beer world of Hawaii, which it's very small, so it's very competitive. And that's another like completely interesting topic in and of itself because the one reason why I'm not super passionate about this industry is that in craft beer, it's all about like being that friendly neighbor and the hospitality and like that aspect of it, right? And like doing things for the community. And it's like I could give two shits about that. It's like I want the business to succeed. I want my brand to succeed. I want our beer to be the best. I want our merchandise to look badass. Like that's what I care about. And so when people put so much focus on like the community and the giving back, it's like sorry, I forgot your original question. Oh, what is my arena?
Yeah, yeah, that was your arena. But I think that's a
Yeah.
good number one thing also that you just said. I'm like 100% convinced you're number one. You're definitely a number one. There's no fucking way like you're at four or three or two. Because the two still kind of care about the community, the two does care about
Yeah.
the community. And you're like the fact that you're like shitting on that side of the marketing, it's like you're like that's garbage. Why were we talking about it? You know? So would you prefer to have like a luxury alcohol branded if you had a choice of like what you had to do? Because it has a more like exclusive feel to it.
No, I see a lot of potential in the brand. And the backstory to the beer company, it's called Aloha Beer. And my dad wrote a business plan in college when he was getting his MBA and trademarked the name Aloha Beer in 1994. And then he started it in 2010. So you could never like get that word trademark today, right? Aloha anything. Like it's just so oversaturated. So our beer has so much potential because like in any like Asian country, they can easily say like Aloha beer or whatever.
Right, right.
It's so easy to recognize. It's not tied to like a specific location or city in Hawaii. It's like the word aloha itself is so valuable. So I see the value in that and so I stand behind the brand like 100%. But it's just like that other part of the brand that you have to cultivate, the people side is just like so tedious. Like I understand it's like necessary, but it's like so
Oh, I see. I think it's tedious for you because you're demon friends. So
yeah.
so that's tedious. Because like I was like, you're savior play, so that shouldn't be tedious. But you don't want to do that song and dance part of it, like, especially because like when you said, I think you had some childhood trauma too, like being your dad's like little, you follow around,
Yeah.
smile, do your thing.
Yeah.
So I think you're sick of that. You're like, I don't want to do that shit anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to do like the mastermind thing behind the scenes where like, we're gonna build this brand and we're gonna, shoot to the top, right? Not necessarily crush
Yeah.
competition, but shoot to the top. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna be the most recognizable beer of this specific brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess aloha means like it's like chill, like it's like a chill. It's like this beer is what you drink when you're chilling. It's like I guess barbecues and stuff. Like
Yeah, it's like very like laid back and I mean, there's a lot of meanings behind it. Like there is the hospitality component of it too, but it's just such a synonymous word with Hawaii.
yeah, but the hospitality side makes you vomit, right? So you know what?
Uh-huh.
I was watching the movie. Have you seen that movie? What is it called? Wonka with Timothy Chalamet. I
I
know you're.
started
Did you see that
Yeah,
movie?
yeah. I started watching it on the plane like last week, but I think I fell asleep. I got like 15 minutes in.
Oh, okay. Um, Okay, so there's a character in that movie that I think is like now I think about you when when I think about him because like in the movie there's like this one character and he's like one of those rich chocolate people like chocolate
Uh,
store owners and like every time he hears the word poor people he'll be like poor people like so I think that's you now. It's like,
No.
oh, no, not poor people but like friends, right? Like it's like, oh, being nice to people, like friends, like.
No, wait, don't think of me though.
After this interview, I was thinking, and it's too late. I already connected that link, like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel, but on the outside, I'm like, I'll put on the show. Yeah.
Okay, I think the verdict, Candice, you are a number one. You're just like
Okay.
you're not the conflict number one. You're like you're not like the crush other people number one. It's like I want to be recognized and be seen at a higher place number one. Like it's but still number one, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. This was like so helpful talking it out and, not mulling it over by myself. Like, yeah,
All
I
right.
feel satisfied.
So now that you know that, you know, obviously you shared a lot of like bad things about being a number one during this interview, which is fine. I think that's very honest, and I think people appreciate it. Not that, but anyways, but what would you say are the good sides of you being a number one is? Because we talk about the negative side, right? But like, what about the positive side? Like, how has not being a number one help you be where you are today? Like, if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be here, because this is not the first time you succeeded with Aloha Beer. You've already succeeded before with your candy business. This is not your, like, you have a trail of success. It's not like it's not luck. Maybe the first time you could say it's luck, but this is the second time around, right? So
Okay, I would say the positive sides for me of being a number one, allegedly, is that I put enormous pressure on myself and I have extremely high standards for what I put out, and I won't settle for anything less. And I think because of that, if you do that successively throughout your life, then maybe inevitably you come out on top in certain scenarios. So yeah.
and can you go into detail about what that pressure on yourself, the standards that you set yourself, what does it look like? And like, for example, can you give me like an example of when you applied that to yourself? Like, okay, like, just give me something specific with your SD play. Like, okay, there was this situation, and then you could have like said, you know what, this is good enough, but then because you had such high standard yourself, you're like, it's not good enough. We need to fix this and we need to make it better. Like, do you have an example of that?
Yeah, I think anything related to like the visuals or the packaging or the branding, the end product of what the customer sees, right? So I don't know, for example, in the background, we could be making changes to the menu, but all of that is like operations and figuring out costing. But at the end of the day, what really matters is what the customer sees, right? And so I'm really, really attuned to that end product. And I will literally stay up all night, like perfecting the layout of, for example, a menu, which seems so insignificant. But for me, it's like everybody knows that I did it and that it's my work. So I'm not going to put out anything shitty. It's like I have my standards and I'll do anything to meet it. And that's just like one component, right? So that's like menus and then like packaging or like beer can design. Like I'm the same way. Like I will do absolutely anything in my power to make sure that it looks up to standard of what I think it should look like.
Oh, I see. So you don't look at the standards of other people. You only have your standards, and it's so high, way above like what you can see. Is that right?
I,
Or
I I guess so. I have a lot of pride in what I put out, but I also know that, on the other side of our team putting these things together, there's a customer that's going to see that as the end product. And I'm really sensitive to that. And it's like, okay, what do I want their perception to be of that final product? And so I'm like constantly thinking about that.
oh, I see what's going on now. Okay, because I'm trying to think. I'm like, number ones and number twos have a lot in common, but I think you just kind of nailed it on the head when you said that the end product is what matters the most, the image of that product, and and the result that that product is going to create for your company, but also for the end user, right? Kind of like Steve Jobs,
Mhm.
right? Like he never half-assed his product. That's why the iPhone is still the number one, even though he's dead for so long, right? You know, um, so that makes a lot of sense because for me, I'm a number two, right? So for me, the internal process is very important, especially with the people inside the internal process, where it's like
Mhm.
everything has to be working perfectly. And I guess that's why number twos are more like the managerial type, where they kind of manage the operations, or it could be any department per se in a company, but they're the one in charge because they do take pride in that the internal operations. But the number ones, that's why they would outsource that to number twos. They don't, you know, I know it sounds horrible, but they don't give a fuck about like dealing with the people side of things. They just
Uh-huh.
want the result, right? So they'll do anything
Yeah.
that will get to the result. And then everyone else can do whatever they want. Like you guys do
Yeah.
don't care as long as as long as the result is made. That's all I care about. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay. All right, Candice, we'll wrap up the interview here. So thanks for coming out and sharing more about your journey working on your SF consume last, and also kind of hammering out with you how there's no other, just from a process elimination, there's no other way you could be a 2, 3, and 4. Just no way, impossible. You're number one.
Okay, cool. I learned something today. Thank you, Kendrick.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.